We're recording?
Yes, sir.
Welcome, everyone, to the Rink Rat Report podcast. We're recording this one right after the Columbus Blue Jackets game. Actually, a couple hours after the Columbus Blue Jackets game. It is late here. Joined by Josh and Jason, as always.
How's it going?
What's up? A little late, but we still got energy.
Exactly.
Not that Steve Dangle energy, but we got energy.
Come on. Anyways, let's get into it. Support for the Rink Rat Report podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. I mean, we've been telling you about Manscaped the past couple weeks. I've really loved their stuff. I really love the ball. I use the ball deodorant. Truthfully, I am a person that always wears jeans. I always wear jeans, and I find when I wear track pants, it's because it gets a little soupy down there kind of thing. I know you don't want to hear it, but it's true.
Ilya Mikheyev down low.
Oh,
Jack
all right.
Campbell.
But as you can see now, I'm wearing track pants. And why? That ball deodorant is really good that they gave us.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really good.
And it makes sense when you think about it. Like, again, people sweat, right?
Like the way that you sit all day.
Like if you're sitting in an office at a computer, even if you're going for a run and you got some issues with chafing, playing hockey, I'm telling you, on the ice, it feels great blowing through the wind and skating with that ball deodorant. It feels fresh. But
yeah,
I also use the nose trimmer this week.
Yep.
Off of last week's recommendation.
Yes.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. There's the Lawnmower 4.0 as well that they gave us. We've been pumping that. Join over 4 million men who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and worldwide shipping with the promo code RINKRAT. That is RINKRAT at checkout at manscaped.com. Let's get into some details.
So I don't want to seem like the Steve Dangle hater because like I've met him. He's a super nice guy. Well, like there's a pretty viral video that Sid Sixero tweeted of him like
on his
essentially
knees,
on his
screaming,
knees wailing. Like we're all
because
not happy.
Sheldon Keefe came out and said this is a good wake up call.
But also like we're all not happy that the Leafs lost. But we're gonna try to do the opposite of the wailing and give you some like, all right, why did they lose these games? Not just because it's the same Leafs. They're gonna fail in the playoffs. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's a chance that that's the road we're gonna take. But there's also a chance that you can find things from these games. You can understand why they're losing. It's before the trade deadline. We can find some solutions. We can solve it. I think people would rather hear that. I think our listeners would rather hear that.
Last year's behind us. It's a different team. There was no Michael Bunting, Andre Kasha, Peter Mrazek, and so on and so forth. We had an actual Jake Muzzin on our team. I don't know where he went. Him and Justin Holl they're actually hiding out in the Bahamas, and we have a couple clones on this team because they do not look like themselves whatsoever.
Yeah.
And now Jake Muzzin is out with a concussion.
That was
hopefully
pretty scary.
he's back soon.
I don't know what's going on. The Leafs have an odd amount of those freak injuries.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird. Yeah.
I swear I don't know how many games I've watched in my lifetime. I've never seen a guy get like knee like that and head on the ice like that. Those are like some crazy.
Like their guys don't get hurt in the normal way where it's
Yeah.
like a headshot or like it's weird.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because like none
Just
of these
unfortunate.
injuries are coming to like Andre Kasha, who just goes head first into everything. It seems like.
Yeah.
But knock on wood,
Yeah.
he's going to be good for playoffs there. But yeah, let's get into tonight's game. First, a little bit of details, what you saw, what you didn't like. Jason, you got some points?
I was going to say maybe we get into the Lybushkin trade first.
Let's get into the Lybushkin trade
Yeah,
first.
sorry about that. But yeah, so if you didn't hear, I'm sure you have, Nick Ritchie finally off the books. We were able to ship him out along with a great.
All right.
No. I first of all, best
for
case
him.
for Nick Ritchie gets a new spot and he'll have a chance in that organization. You'll get a chance to redeem your value.
100%.
Second of all, the Leafs were going to trade him no matter what, and it's best case scenario that they got something out of it, and B, didn't have to retain any salary.
Yeah,
That's true.
I wish all the best for Nick Ritchie.
Yeah.
If he doesn't play himself up in that lineup, up in that lineup, oh my God,
Yeah, but
you're done.
So the Leafs sent over Nick Ritchie and a 2023 second round pick. Third round pick with the condition Arizona has the option to change that to a 2025 second round pick. So I think that's the
I believe so.
biggest, like the furthest away draft pick I've ever seen traded.
Yeah.
I think you're only...
People were making fun of it. They're like, this kid that is in the future going to be drafted by the Coyotes is currently doing his homework right now in the 9th grade. Right?
Yeah, but in return, we got Ryan Dzingel and Ilya Lybushkin, who was the main piece, I think, for the Leafs.
Ryan Dzingel, yeah. Dzingel. And then Ryan Dzingel was put on waivers and was I don't have the
subsequently
right word.
Claimed by the Sharks.
Subsequently, there we are.
And why did they get Dzingel in the trade specifically?
Oh, so Dzingel helps Arizona shed cap because, again, his minor salary is 1.1. And so, again, this is just a way for Arizona to match cap with Nick Ritchie because they're going to be paying they would have had to pay these guys anyways if they sent them down and stuck around with the team. And that's the same thing that went for Carter Hutton. Carter Hutton got sent down on waivers the day after this trade, and the Leafs acquired him for future considerations. A lot of people were wondering why. There was a great article put up by, I forget his name. I feel terrible.
I'll pull it up right now.
But essentially what happens is Carter Hutton still is a minimum salary, $750K, but if he gets sent down to the minors, he still makes that money. No, that's not the case with all contracts. So I guess to help alleviate the cost of Nick Ritchie and how much Arizona is going to pay them, Leafs kind of did them a solid by taking essentially Carter Hutton for free, and Carter Hutton will be loaned back to Tucson in the AHL so that he doesn't have to leave his family. So it's a nice little tidy work from Kyle Dubas, making the money work and keeping kind of everyone involved happy. It was a great trade. And again, the biggest thing that we've yet to get into is the big piece for us, Ilya Lybushkin.
Yeah.
And also,
article was from Craig Morgan.
He's
Craig.
He's very plugged into the Arizona hockey scene. So, and also, sorry, Jason, another question. I just lost my train of thought. Ryan Dzingel. So Leafs fans are saying, why did they acquire this guy and then send him down immediately? Like, would we have to pay him if he's in the minors?
No. So essentially, because he got claimed, like his contract is off our books. But if he got sent down to the AHL, his salary is, I think, just a little bit over. I think it's like $50,000 over the
league minimum.
Yeah,
the max variable.
The max variable. That's what it is.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
So for some who don't know, when Nick Ritchie was buried, we were actually paying off 1.3 ish
against the cap.
But for Dzingel, if he stayed with us, he got claimed, so it doesn't really matter. It would be like $50K against the cap.
So believe it or not, the point I'm getting at is like the reason this is such tidy work is like even if Dzingel didn't get claimed, the Leafs are still actually not like shedding or not adding cap space. They were actually shedding cap space compared to having Ritchie's full cap number or even his buried number, right? Because you're just wasting $1 million on a non-roster spot. And another thing that's allowing the Leafs to do right now is accrue cap space going towards the deadline. A lot of people don't understand or are aware of this. This is a very CBA lawyer hockey operations part of the cap, but you can actually gain cap space and you can spend over the cap on the deadline, non-LTR related, by having cap space. Every day you have cap space, it actually accrues toward the amount of cap space at the end of the season. It's very complicated. I'm not going to get into it. But these little opportunities that Kyle Dubas has to send guys up and down, that's why sometimes you see Liljegren go down for a day, Sandin go down for a day. But even like the fact that they can have Dzingel down and his whole cap would have been variable, it was a perfect trade. And, again, we're bearing the lead. They're able to pick up the exact piece that they needed at this point, which is Ilya Lybushkin. Let's hear. What do you guys think of his game?
So to be 100% truthful, I didn't get to watch too much of him when he was in Arizona. From the sources that I had heard that had actually watched him, big guy, physical, not very offensively gifted, pretty good in front of his own net, pretty good defensively as well. Someone commented on Instagram, I believe it was, they were saying he is solid defensively, sometimes gets caught at his own blue line, which, whoops, that happened tonight, because he's trying to make that extra offensive play. Maybe that's because he was in Arizona. There absolutely is no offense, trying to do a little bit too much, so hopefully that goes away. But the guy was saying he's a solid player, like good hitter kind of thing, seemingly adding what the Leafs quite don't have in the lineup.
Yeah,
so
I agree. I don't. He's not bringing anything offensively. Don't think that. But we don't need that, right? We got, Morgan Rielly's a premier offensive defenseman in the NHL. Rasmus Sandin's going to be that. He's already really good at it. You don't need more than probably 2 of those guys going into a playoff, right? You know how the game's played.
Yeah.
2 things he does really well. We're lucky to know enough to have some look at some good numbers here. One of them is entry denial rates. It's a big thing for the Leafs. The Leafs don't do that.
Massive thing, and we'll get into that.
They
when we
don't do that
summarize this game.
particularly well for whatever reason this year. Much worse than last year, almost across the board for them. And another thing is his dump-in recoveries, and it's called dump-in recoveries and successful next play. Another thing the Leafs have not done very well this year. He is one of the better defensive defensemen in terms of executing that.
So what exactly is it? Explain that.
So
Sorry.
it's like
go from entry denial.
So an entry denial is just essentially it's anytime you break up an entry into the zone.
Yeah.
So when the player has initiated carrying the puck in, the amount of times you're able to either get a stick check, get a body check, and change possession, or just stop them from having possession.
And that's effective because when you have good players with the puck, even if they're just able to get over the line and get a little bit of space, they're able to create offense.
Exactly. And then obviously the dump in recoveries with successful next play. It's important because a lot of D, they're big bodies, they can get to the puck, but it's the Zaitsev thing, right? Remember when Zaitsev at the end of his tenure in Toronto, he can't
with 2 broken wrists.
He can't pass the puck out of the zone. And we've had a bit of struggle with that so far, especially in the last couple of games. Leafs have been hit. Justin Hall is one of the worst defensemen in the league at that by this metric, by the way. But so it's the amount of times that you're able to recover the puck and then make a successful either pass or carry out of the zone after. And Lybushkin does a really good job at that. So those are 2 little numbers for you, little behind-the-scenes numbers. Maybe look at why Kyle Dubas acquired him, because we don't do there's a lot of our defensemen that are kind of middling at that this year. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, another thing we talked about is his ability to sting out in front of the net, be physical in front of the net, throw the body. These are all good things. Zach Bogosian did a good job for us last year doing that on the third pair. I think he's probably even a little better than Zach Bogosian was last year.
Ooh.
I do. I don't know if that's going to translate to top 4 minutes, but I think if you look at his numbers in execution defensively, he's better than Zach Bogosian. I think Zach Bogosian maybe a little more, I don't want to say responsible with the puck, but I think Lybushkin is better.
Bogosian was quite responsible.
He was.
He was a very smart player.
He was very smart, and he was pretty disciplined too. But yeah, that's my breakdown of him. And we luckily got to see him against Columbus. I thought he had a pretty good game, obviously, other than
it's unfortunate.
He had a bit of an error on the offensive blue line. What did you think of his game tonight?
I thought he was fine. I really liked the idea of him being paired with Sandin because, again, those are 2 guys who are that's kind of the perfect guy you want with Sandin, right? And Lybushkin, from his time in Arizona, he played a lot with Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and he played a lot with Jacob Chychrun. So those are both 2 great puck-moving defensemen and kind of more offensive D, and it seems like he's almost a good anchor for those guys. And just one thing quickly that I wanted to pull up, according to both Evolving Wild and Jay Fresh's cards, he is almost a very similar, maybe more of a light version of David Savard. And remember what Tampa was paying for last year to get David Savard. I'm not saying that it was an overpay by any means, but again, we're getting a really solid stay-at-home defenseman for essentially a third or second round pick, which was.
But it's not even equal to that because we talked about this a little on the last podcast. Usually the conversion rate is you trade a 4th this year for a 3rd next year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what a 2nd in 4 years is worth. I haven't done that conversion, but it's kind of we traded. All we traded really was a 3rd and 4th, and we were able to shed Ritchie, and you get a guy who's going to be very useful as looks like your 4, 5, 6 D man. This is. And deservedly so, Kyle Dubas got a lot of praise on Twitter for this deal. A lot of people, if you're not really into hockey, so more casual fans, maybe you don't understand why. I think all our listeners are pretty into the Leafs specifically, so you can see why this is just an easy trade for Dubas to make. That it makes the team better this year, and it sheds cap for next year too.
Everyone's happy in this situation.
Everyone's happy, so it's a 10 out of 10 trade.
Yeah. So I kind of went a little off topic there, but back to the game. I think. Again, I thought they played strong tonight. I'm not sure. I think at one point he was actually leading the team in Corsi for percentage and expected goals percentage. So him on the ice, it was pretty solid. There was just that one gaff. He kind of but that's someone who hasn't practiced with the team yet. He's still new,
filling out his Canadian paperwork.
Exactly. So I thought he played a pretty good game other than that one little instance, and I'm excited to see this pair going forward because they could be a good. Spot filler for now for when while Jake wasn't hurt for the second our second line D.
exactly.
What else? Any other thoughts about the game tonight?
Like, I don't know, do you want to go game by game or like kind of do a moratorium on like what they're doing wrong right now in the 3 games?
Let's do a summary, like a moratorium.
Let's go top to bottom right now. Forward group.
I mean, that's 3 losses in a row.
Yeah, and luckily for the Leafs, extremely lucky, Nashville came back against Florida and won that game in regulation. So the Leafs actually, like, honestly, for me, all I'm looking at is Florida. Like, no, like you can agonize game over game standings. Leafs are making the playoffs 100%. I'm telling you, it's almost impossible for them to miss the playoffs. And they're most likely going to play Tampa Bay unless they can catch Florida. So I'm not even looking at Tampa Bay. Like, whatever. If Tampa Bay ends up passing Florida, great. We play Florida. That's fine. I'm looking at Florida. So we actually gained a point on Florida. That's positive spin number 1. But I want to ask you guys, what are you seeing? Let's start with, can we go forward D goaltending? Is that a good way to do it, you think?
Yeah.
And then we can timestamp like that too, and everyone can see.
Yeah.
So from the forward group, what do you guys see in the last 3 games? And we can extend it because I think we pointed it out in January. They were winning, not their best hockey. Sheldon Keefe said it too.
Yeah.
A little bit of an easier schedule.
Yeah.
So forward group, what do you guys think?
In terms of the forward group, so I've got here the second line is still struggling, I would say. They got the 2 goals in St. Louis, couple good transition
let's
goals.
say like you got William Nylander in those 2 goals, right?
Yeah.
So they had. Well, I mean, when we looked at the 2 goals, John Tavares pretty good breakup, and then just puck to William Nylander up the ice. The second goal was a nice transition play by Alex Kerfoot, and then he threw a nice pick on the defenseman.
No, I agree. Sorry, I'm not underestimating it. I'm just saying, like,
he's got a good shot.
He's a good player.
He's a good player. Unfortunately, it's been a bit of a rocky few last games, but he got a couple nice goals there. But I mean, just against Montreal, we saw the results. -2 with not many shots.
I believe they also got benched for a bit in that game.
Probably
Montreal,
their
yes,
time on ice was very low, and I mean it was ugly. Tonight it was a bit more of a bounce back. You saw William Nylander in transition on a breakaway got stopped, and then John Tavares on the one-timer got stopped. They were getting their chances there. On the power play, they've still been pretty effective, I would say.
I would say tonight it almost looked like it was leaking into the power play a bit. Like Nylander, I don't want to say he looked lost, but he looked like he was struggling to find maybe his spot. There was one particular power play where they try to set up that low 3-on-1 against 1D.
Yeah.
Where he was just on the wrong side of the net. Oh. And that's like little things like that. It's not even his fault. It's like when it's not going well, you're like everything's going wrong. Even Tavares, like he blocked one of our own players' shots at one point. He was missing the net. He's getting good tips.
He hit the glass a lot.
He hit the glass a lot tonight. It's one of those things where. Shout out some guys. A lot of people said it on Twitter. It's the grip and the stick too hard for Tavares right now. That's what it is. You can see it.
And I mean, Nylander against Montreal, the first power play that they got, he got a really good one-time opportunity from Morgan Riley. Blew it right by
Pretty
the net.
open.
And he was
rattled.
Like, damn it! And that's after a 2-goal game. I mean, it's really weighing on them, and you can see it. Like, again, what do you change the utilization of this line more? What is?
I honestly, I don't know. I think.
Do you keep riding it out because it feels like they're almost on the cusp of something?
I think maybe ride it out just because, like, again, like some of these guys are just not like John Tavares. He hasn't scored in 10 games, and I think that's like a career. That's a career record for him. That's the most amount of games he hasn't scored in his career.
It's got to be.
You pointed it out. We saw on the highlights even there was a ticker of how long. When was the last time John Tavares shot the puck?
Yeah,
48 minutes, which is multiple games, by the way. Like that's not like I assume that's not like I assume that's time he's on the ice. Maybe.
Yeah,
I would assume so. Yeah, because 48 minutes in a game, it's like
it's kind of weird because he's not on the ice. Yeah, but yeah. So with the second line in particular, I agree. I think that line is like again kind of the biggest pain point because our first line is doing what they're supposed to be doing. Right? That's like a two-way dominant line that can get a lot of points and like they're winning the possessions. Right? They're winning when they're on the ice. They're winning the goals. Mm-hmm. The second line, I think, is like we said, the biggest issue. The third line and fourth line, I think they've been okay. Right? Like, I think they've actually been, like...
You know what? Like, this is an easy nitpick, but it feels like... Some of it feels like that Montreal series where, like, our depth just disappears at times.
I got into your brain, didn't
you? Got into my brain so bad. Because, like, I'm watching this game tonight, and I'm like, if Matthews, Marner, or Bunting don't score a goal, we're not scoring a goal.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. I don't know if the stats back that up. I don't know if the numbers back that up. But that's
probably.
It's funny because it's so quick. The depth can go from a strength to a weakness for you, right? And that's just the variance of hockey sometimes.
That's what we were saying last year. Remember, at points, Thornton had 8 points in his last 7 games. At points, Wayne Simmons had 5 goals in his first 12 games. But then come playoffs, Thornton was invisible. Simmons had 2 good games. And it's like, all right, that's part of the depth. And then on top of that, Pierre Engvall, we see him get hot and cold. Ilya Mikheyev, you see him get hot and cold. Like, you're right. It can really go up.
The most consistent player in our bottom 6 is David Kampf and Jason Spezza.
Kasha at all, you think?
I think
Kasha's been cold. So
Jason's got great.
So again,
stats.
like I kind of prompted this because like I think the fourth line has been like, again, they're the fourth line. I think they've been okay. I think they've stepped up, but I think the second and third line are more where the issue is coming from.
Do this as like a quiz way.
Yeah. So again, let's start this from the top.
Before you get into it, Jason Spezza, in terms of reliability, I want to say the 5-on-5 numbers do fluctuate a lot. I think in terms of reliability, it's just his skill set. Like,
because
you saw it the last 6-on-5. Yeah. He puts in a goal, right? You're going to get games like the Minnesota game. You need a goal. Put Jason Spezza out there on the top of the circles or wherever. He'll give you a very good chance to score a goal.
Quick one for this before you go, Jason. If you look at his on-ice shooting percentage, right, it's a good stat to see how the guys are performing around and how he's performing. His first 2 years with the least 10.2, 11.3, that's abnormally high for a fourth liner. And that's not luck. That's just because he's good. And that's where your consistency comes from, right? Whether the 5-on-5 analytics, the shots are up and down, it doesn't matter because his finishing ability and his passing ability to give other guys
slap pass,
to give other guys good looks makes him so effective.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so let's throw this up. So again, I'm looking at the last 16 games right now. Okay, this is going to be over a span of 16 games and
what's that dated?
So that is, I believe that's the day that Mitch Marner came back. I think that's the day after the Arizona game.
Okay.
I think
because it's been basically it's been the same forward group from then on.
Yes. I believe that is again like that game was January 12th. The next game was against the Blues January 15th. So we're talking about from then on. Okay, so I want you guys to guess right now quickly. Quiz the top 3 forwards. The top 3 forwards in points for the Leafs at 5-on-5. Or top 3 players, not
5-on-5?
Yes, at 5-on-5.
Matthews, Marner, Bunting.
There you go. So Matthews has 17 points in 16 games. Marner has 16 points in 16 games. Bunting has 13 points.
5-on-5?
At 5-on-5.
That's good stuff.
That's pretty impressive, okay? So now I want you to guess who is fourth. Now this is all players, not just forward and D, but it's a forward to give you a hint. Yes.
I want to say Kerfoot.
Close. He is fifth.
Jason Spezza?
No. Close. Okay, one more guess, and I'm going to tell you higher or lower, and that's where they are in the lineup, essentially. Where I think they are in like the pecking order.
Andre Kasha?
Lower.
Oh. So he's lower than Andre Kasha.
Yes.
Is it Pierre Engvall?
Pierre Engvall is fourth in our team.
Pierre Engvall is
5-on-5 scoring. He has
What's
8
the splits?
Points.
Goals, assists.
He has 4 goals and 4 assists. He has 8 points in the last 16 games, and he missed a game.
That's good. That's actually very good.
That's good in one way, and that's terrible in another way.
So, again, he's also only playing 163 minutes compared to like where our second and third line guys are playing around 200 minutes. Okay,
yeah,
in that time span, and he's missed a game. Okay, fifth, like I said, is Alexander Kerfoot. Sixth and seventh, I'm not even going to let you guess because they're defensemen. So Engvall is yes. So Engvall is fourth. And remember, this is 5-on-5 points. Engvall is fourth with 8 points at 5-on-5. Kerfoot is fifth with 7 points at 5-on-5. Morgan Riley and Timothy Liljegren are sixth and seventh respectively with 6 points, 5-on-5.
Oh my!
Do you know who ninth is?
William Nylander. Not even.
Yeah, eighth is Nylander. Right?
Eighth is William Nylander. It's a 4-way tie for eighth with 5 points between William Nylander, David Kampf, John Tavares, and Ilya Mikheyev.
Wow,
David Kampf is wildly outscoring our second line in the past 4 games.
I'll say this: that is the best stat surfing we've done on this podcast.
And again, I wanted to. I was originally just did this for the second line, but I wanted to lump the third line in as well because again, they're not really scoring as much either. David Kampf, doing as much as he can. But again, he's
I wonder
not.
what the goals for, goals against is for that line.
I
It's
think
supposed to be a defensive specialist line, so
David Kamp's going to get sulky, though. It's like he deserves it.
Yeah,
but
he's been exceptional.
Yeah, I can get you those stats in a second.
No, but even you're
times.
telling me David Kamp in his minutes, which is the exact opposite deployment of Tavares. Like David Kamp is playing Crosby, he's playing Ryan O'Reilly. I'm trying to think who we've played recently. Like he's playing against the top centers. Tavares is getting 70% offensive zone faceoffs, and he has the same amount of 5-on-5 points as David Kamp.
Oh my God,
That is unacceptable. And again, that is your problem with your forward group right now.
I think so. Yeah,
The middle of the lineup is not giving you anything. Because honestly, let's say this: even though Kampf is a third liner, in terms of scoring reliability, he's last on what you expect.
Yes,
he should be last in every 10-game stretch. He cannot be like in your top 6 best forwards in terms of point production over 16 games.
Yes, and I want again. This is 16 games, but again, this isn't like the be all end all. We're not saying these guys are bad. They just again need to step it up. And who knows? Maybe they could get a little bit of a regression, right? Because the individual expected goals for both William Nylander and John Tavares are around. For John Tavares, it's 3.59, which would be I think third in the team. So he's generating.
But here's the thing. I agree. He's generating the chances, but that's not the issue because I'm watching him tonight blow shots from the slot 10 feet over the net.
Yeah.
Wow. David Kampf has 5 points in his last 6 games. Is that correct? No, it's not.
He's been hot, but
stuck.
Yeah, so again, they are generating expected goals, and their shooting percentage is poor right now. But again, this stuff hopefully corrects itself. But again, this is not enough. This is not their best play. This is not enough. We simply need more from them. That's the bottom line.
No.
Especially the second line, third line could improve a little bit more. David Kampf is carrying that line
Here we
right
go.
now.
4 points in his last 5 games for David Kampf.
Amazing. With a beautiful pass, by the way. I originally thought that was Mitch Marner today. I'm actually not even joking.
well, it was to Matthews. So.
But
so that we'll get into the trade deadline stuff after this. So there's a problem we need to solve right now.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it's Kerfoot's fault, but I could see Kyle Dubas saying, I need to add a spark plug to that second line. I don't know who it is. We'll look at some options, but I can see where now that you've got Lybushkin and maybe Muzzin ends up on LTIR and you have a lot of flexibility, maybe there's a big swing.
I think it was Carlo Koliakova pointed out this is his second concussion in not that long.
And I'm not even saying this for we're going to circumvent the cap. Kucherov, I hope even if he's not out all year, he needs, it's dangerous, man.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. He hit his head hard. He was knocked out. Mm-hmm. That was scary. He needs
stayed in Montreal hospital.
He needs to really slow it. Even Tavares, he was skating in the first round, and that was oh man,
yeah, he was skating very soon.
You gotta give.
My
it
brother,
some
who's
time.
not a hockey fan, was just what that makes no sense.
Makes no sense. So anything else on the forwards?
So yeah, another thing, and I'm not trying to bag on the second line. I'm just gonna try and show how they do need to improve in all areas. Not just we touched on that they need to improve offensively. That's what they're here for, right? I'm not gonna try and drag them defensively, but you asked what the goals for percentage was. So on the ice right now with John Tavares, William Nylander, we touched on it a bit last week throughout the whole season. But over the last 16 games, John Tavares has been on the ice for 9 5-on-5 goals and 19 5-on-5 goals against. William Nylander, 8 5-on-5 goals for, 19 5-on-5 goals against. That just isn't good. And the expected goals battle, they're tied right now. They're at 50%. Those are guys who should be at a 54, 55% with their 100% and their offensive output. That's what it should be. And they're just not. They're not getting that. They're not. And that's an issue. And I don't know if we address that, if that's going to be addressed at the trade deadline. And it sucks because if it is, I'm going to kind of segue into something else I was thinking about. If we do address that, if we end up getting a second line winger to play with those two guys, assuming we don't split them up, what happens to Kerfoot? Do we keep him? Is it worth it to keep Kerfoot mind you, he signed for another year after this year. If we acquire a guy to play on that second line, is it worth it to keep Kerfoot? Because again, we've seen him we've seen times where he's been off that second line and he goes on the fourth line. Is it worth it to keep a player who makes $3.5 million with our cap situation for another year if he's going to be playing fourth line minutes?
So it's a great question. I don't think we have a good answer for it now, too, right?
No.
If you're
there's been times where we've been very, very high on Alex Kerfoot, But it's just like it's kind of an unfortunate situation that you need to
like if you
address.
can get the guy in Vancouver, I think you're probably
we'll leave his name at the guy in Vancouver.
Yeah, I think you're more comfortable. But if it's a guy, I don't know, a guy who's maybe just marginally better than Kerfoot, it's like, man, is it worth it? Who knows? Like, you got to weigh that opportunity cost. We were saying the same thing about Hall last week, right? Hall versus Sherrod. If you have to give a first-round pick.
To get marginally better.
So, but I think that's a great summary of the forwards.
Yeah.
It's,
so,
the D.
That's a good way to wrap it up. The D.
The defense. The number one thing that I've noticed with the defense over the past few games, they've even said it on the broadcast, they give up the blue line way too easily. Just the Leafs in general. There was a play in the first period of the Montreal game where Petrie sent a puck up the ice to Laurent Dauphin. He was at the blue line. Laurent Dauphin fumbled the puck. Brody was there. He backed off of him. Dauphin fumbled the puck at the blue line. He looked around. He couldn't find the puck. It was in his skates. He recovered, and he was able to enter the zone with time with the puck.
And make a play.
And make a play that led to a scoring chance, and nobody touched him.
That's not
like,
good.
That's just unacceptable. And then a few times tonight, I was able to clip one Riley play that was a great example. Separated Line A from the puck, but then who was on the ice for the Line A goal?
Which one?
His first goal. The 3-on-3, whatever. That's 3-on-3.
It was
different.
a change.
Was it Dermott?
Brody changed
because
for
that was
Dermott.
some awful gap control.
Yeah.
There were so many. If you want to teach a young defenseman how not to control the blue line, show them the Toronto Maple Leafs over the past few games because it has been atrocious.
And it's something we've locked in on. They either have guys who do it, and then there's guys that just they don't do it. Like I love Rasmus Sandin. He's one of the worst defensemen that plays a regular shift at denying the blue line.
Yep.
Justin Hall, who was pretty good at it in previous years, has been a below average at it this year. And again, you're on our shutdown pair. You don't pass the puck that well. You don't score that much offensively. If you're not denying the blue line and protecting the front of the net, what are we doing?
Did you see Justin Hall's back pass on Montreal's first shot?
Justin Hall had a really rough night against Montreal.
That was awful.
I personally disagree.
I think
he was the only forward, only defenseman not to get scored on, and he was on for both goals. Again, that's
awful.
He was. You gotta. This is one of those where like the on ice was very evident. He was a disaster, and that's why he was a healthy tonight.
Okay.
The first shift, he tries to do a drop pass with pressure on him to Austin Matthews. It gets picked off. Montreal goes the other way for a breakaway. His second shift, he fumbled the puck in his own end. They ended up with a scoring chance. His third shift, I believe he took a penalty.
Right now, what he's doing as well that is driving me insane, he's overhandling the puck. It's like you can't make a pass. Why are you? There's some plays where he's like, okay, exit, and he wraps it back around the net, and then we turn the puck over.
He's way too slow to be doing that, too.
I understand.
Sandy and Liljegren are really good at it, but they can actually skate.
I understand some of the underlying numbers are fine. He's been average as underlying numbers, but it's like the reverse Spezza. Like Spezza's results are fantastic because he's so good offensively. Hall is the opposite. He's been so prone to big event negative plays due to his inability to make an exit pass, and I think he's way too soft in front of the net. That play by Nick Suzuki, too, where Suzuki hits Hall, a completely clean hit. He hit him hard. He's smaller than you. You got rocked. Spezza goes to stick up for him, and Hall third man's in the fight. I bet that's probably a reason why he got benched, too, because, like, dude, you got rocked by Nick Suzuki and your third man inning, like, kind of dirty third man inning this fight. Like, what do you look like a
complete clown.
It was a rough look for him. So,
yeah.
I mean, Elliot Friedman said, like, they might look to trade him. I totally believe it. I think if Kyle Dubas could do it, he'd completely remake the bottom two right D of his team, and he's already done it with one spot, and I would not be surprised if he goes back at it.
Yep, I agree.
So
giving up the blue line, and then on top of that, I mean, did you have another point? I'll get into the second one I had with the D. They're soft in front of their net. Mm-hmm. That's an understatement. They are wildly soft in front of their net. I'm glad Lybushkin's here because he'll help to add to that. But like, there was a couple plays where it's just like, they're soft just in general, I would say, in their defensive zone. You pointed out a play was on the 5th goal in the St. Louis game where the puck goes down into the corner, right? Brody's battling for the puck. Nylander's there for support. Brody leaves the puck for Nylander. Nylander kind of leans for it, doesn't, and then Brody takes the puck back for some reason. I don't understand why. And then Ryan O'Reilly just kind of puts his ass out and is able to get a tip in for the 5th goal to put the nail in the coffin for the game. And then on top of that, just the way that St. Louis moved the puck in our offensive zone off the rush too was just like, what are you guys doing out here? Where are you going? Like, there was a play, they came in, it was, I believe, Kyrou threw a pick on, he successfully threw a pick on 2 different guys at one time, and St. Louis walked in for a good chance. Like, how are you not fighting a little bit? How are you not,
I don't know,
like, giving a little shot? How are you not, like, fighting through checks like that? Like, PJ Stock tweeted, oh, the Leafs are soft when this turns out to be, when we get to playoffs and it's more of a rugby game, the Leafs are going to get beat out. And it really made me think, because I don't like generalities, like, oh, they're soft, that's why. We'll get into that a little bit more. And so I started to think, okay, at the opposing blue line, they weren't able to get it in very well against St. Louis. And then at our own blue line, it's an open door. And in front of our net, it's an open door.
Not for anything. Jason's been saying for 4 weeks that we're soft in front of our net. Literally, when was the first time you brought that up?
Yeah, I think it was like a couple weeks ago.
You brought forth the stat, yeah.
Yeah, it was again, like, I think what I said was just go through naturalstattrick.com. It's a great website. You can go to by team, look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you can go through every single game. They have, under every game, they have something called a heat map. And it's simple. All it is just where the shots are coming from. Every time there's a shot, it's a little mark on the heat map, and it shows you. And early on in the season, December, November, October, we were doing a fantastic job of covering that little area just below the slot in front of the crease and not allowing shots from there. Since January, it feels like that's been a big issue defensively. Like you guys said, like, you can see it, you can literally see it with your own eyes by looking at these heat maps. It's very simple. It's nothing fancy. It's just where the shots are coming from, and they're so concentrated in front of the net. It just isn't good. It has to be improved upon, and thankfully we got Lybushkin, who's definitely going to help with that. And it kind of looks like by tonight's shot map against Columbus, maybe his impacts we're already starting to see his impact. Excuse me.
So, I think Justin Hall's I agree. Sorry, Jason. Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Like, got to be way better in front. That's one of the top 2 things for me. For me, it's better in front, better exit passing, better on X, because it's too many times, Muzz and Hall specifically, where we're getting hemmed in because we're not making good outlet passes. Some of that's on some forwards too, but mostly on the D. When I look at Justin Hall, his metrics are good, not good, average. He's like literally an average defenseman according to the expected goals, shot metric numbers. But let's get into like the micro and macro of his game, like actually on the ice. What is Justin Hall doing well this year?
Nothing.
I feel like he just does a lot of things mediocre. That's like,
but like last year, he was a good first passer. He was a reliable first passer. At least we had that, and he did a pretty decent job at denying entries, or at least forcing dump-ins last year. This year, his first pass has been like from game one. From game one, has been just awful.
From the preseason.
And his entry denial rate, it's in the bottom half of the league. So we got to find, Justin Hall's got to figure it out. What's your niche? What are you going to do well? And if he can't, he's going to be traded 100%. If it's not him or Dermott this summer, one of them's gone. That's just do the math. Like one of them's gone. And
Dermott's been a lot better.
Here's the thing. Dermott is one of the best defensemen, believe it or not, in the league, tracking-wise, at denying rushes. Believe it or not. One thing, watch, Dermott does this so well. Watch how he utilizes his forward skating on these entry denials. The reason that a lot of guys give up the zone is they're skating backwards in a straight line, and it's just easy. He does a great job at pivoting because he's a great skater, and he can pivot, skate forwards, and deny the guy.
He's aggressive.
The problem with Dermott is not a lot of the other things in his game are as advanced, and he's a little undersized. And when he plays up in competition, as we've seen it doesn't translate as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem with Dermott. And I think Dermott has a good skill set to stick in the league in a bottom pairing role. I'd even like to see him in a higher role. But again, for this team, we have big aspirations. I don't know where the spots are if you're adding another defenseman.
You need I think the most obvious we're seeing is that second line right D. Can it be Bush? Can it be someone else? It's probably not going to be Liljegren.
And Dermott and Hall have value on the way out too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say it's a middling team. It's not a team that's out. Maybe a team that wants to do well next year and doesn't want to lose a ton of defensive depth as we get closer to like an Anaheim, for example. Let's say Anaheim, Philadelphia. Oh, okay. Maybe we'll trade Manson or Braun, but next year we want to be good.
Yeah.
You say, okay, take Justin Hall, take Travis Dermott. You're shedding $2 or $1.5 million. Helps with the cap situation.
Yeah. So like I said, Hall is on a middling team. He is a serviceable 4-5 for them. That's what and especially since he's only making $2 million for this year and next year, right? So he has a ton of value going out. It's just again, what do we want as our fourth right D? Do we want a serviceable guy or do we want we need an elite? We need strong players. That will take us to the next level. That's what's the biggest. The glaring difference between us and Tampa Bay right now, right now it's you look at their decor, you look at our decor, and it's not even close.
It's a joke.
Maybe we have a bit of an edge on in the forward group because Tampa lost a ton of depth last year. But again, our defense, compared to theirs, it's night and day, honestly. Yeah. And that's nothing against our top end guys like Riley, like Brody, Muzzin, even Sand and Liljegren. They're great players, but again, their defense group is. Studs, and we got that. We need to get to that level if we want.
You want to talk a second pair that has some protect the front of the net, win pucks in the corner. How about Ryan McDonough and Eric Cernak?
Oh yeah, that's a tough.
That is about exactly what you want in a second pair defensive role. They got Sergachev on their third pairing. Yeah. What are we doing? This team is so stacked. But I agree though, Jason. You're 100% right. I didn't even talk about Bogosian. They have Bogosian as their 6'7". It's unbelievable.
I like
how
that
much
point you made about what are you going to get at your fourth right D kind of pairing? Is it going to be someone serviceable versus a very good player?
It's a great point.
And that really depends on what's your third guy left D. Before it was Jake Muzzin. It was we just need serviceable on the right side, but Muzzin is either A, out, or B, just hasn't been playing very well this year. I think you need a little bit more than what we were thinking before the deadline, at least. Before last month, what we were thinking kind of.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
And, people were right. Hull was being carried by Muzzin. I'm not saying he's a useless player, but his top game was a lot because Muzzin was doing a lot of the dirty work. And now Hall's not terrible. I still think people like you said, it's fair. He's having a bad stretch, but he's a very serviceable NHL defenseman. I bet if we were a bad team, by the way, and he's like a $2 million 4-5 with term, you could probably get a second round pick, maybe I don't know, squeeze a top prospect, not top, but B plus prospect. But I agree, Jay. That's a great. What do you want? Do you want a question mark, or do you want to shore that up and be? Wow, this is a strength of the team. You got Riley Brody, which is a great all situations. You got an offensive player. You got a chameleon in TJ Brody. And then you have your shutdown pair with Muzzin or whoever, whatever. And it's a strong, strong pair. I think you're right. I think you got to shore it up any way you can. I remember Dallas's D when they made the finals too, right? They couldn't score that year. They couldn't score. Even in the playoffs, they couldn't score. They had, what was it? Heiskanen.
They had Heiskanen, Esa Lindell,
John Klingberg.
And then Jamie Alexiak on the 6th.
They had guys, man. And I know we like our smaller D that can move the puck. I love those guys, but I agree. Have a strong second pair.
I'm glad you brought up Dallas, and also kind of relates to what I was mentioning before at that PJ Stock tweet. Look at who did they have on their roster that didn't play that well in the regular season. There was two guys, but there's one guy I'm thinking in particular. Didn't play that well in the regular season that year, but had a good playoffs.
Was Pavelski one?
Yes, Pavelski was one. It's not the guy I'm thinking
Klingberg?
of. No. Forward.
Jamie Benn?
Corey Perry.
Corey Perry.
Why was that? He's a complete rat in front of the net.
Yeah.
The next year, what happened? He was a healthy scratch. He was on waivers at the beginning of the year for Montreal. He had a good playoffs, though. Why? He's a rat. There are less, as you mentioned in past episodes, there are less rules in the playoffs. It's time to accept that.
Yeah.
You need very tough defensemen in front of the net to defend against those rats.
Well, remember we talked about even Colorado struggled in the playoffs last year against Vegas. They couldn't
lost in the second round.
Couldn't get the puck out.
Yep.
And they said
on the forecheck too.
I don't agree with this. It's like, can you have Girard and can you have Makar? I disagree. Those guys are elite defensemen, but there's a different game in the playoffs, and some of that will be that Sam Girard has to adjust his game for that, right? But like you said, does Eric Cernak have to adjust his game for the playoffs? No, the playoff adjusts for Eric Cernak, and he's better in the playoffs.
Yeah, because he's got that nastiness.
People don't know a lot about him, but I've just watching him, looking at some numbers, like the way he denies the blue line, wins puck battles, just a really, really solid defense.
That is like one of the most pivotal traits for that team that no one ever touched.
That's an unbelievable trade.
They got, was it Ben Bishop in a third? Or sorry, they traded Ben Bishop for him in a third, I think. Right? It's just crazy. But
it's just also, but then again, when they get into that system, the way they do things, it's championship level, and I think the Leafs can get there. So on D, let's give a little summary here. We didn't talk Muzzin. Obviously, he got injured. I don't want to criticize his game too much, but it's hard to underestimate how much injuries are playing a role in that guy's game right now, right? Because last year he's one of the best defensemen in the NHL. We're talking Olympic team for him.
Yeah,
remember that, and it was warranted. He was unbelievable, but it's got to be tough in and out of the lineup. Different injuries, like I think it's affected mostly his puck handling, his decision making. He's just not. It's almost like he's not fully at. He can never get fully at game speed. Yeah. He's always in and out of the lineup. So we'll see what happens. If he goes on LTIR, it's buckle up. Like it's gonna be an S show for the Leafs. Like they gotta probably add a defenseman. It's the thing. Like everyone's like, put him on LTIR. Yeah. Then what are you doing on the back end though?
Who are you bringing in?
Because it's even a 50% Jake Muzzin is, no offense, he's better than Dermott and Hall and Liljegren right now. Yeah. So
like in the short term, again, like I'm okay with Lybushkin and Sandin being our second line, but long term that's not. And long term, I mean going past the trade deadline, like that's not a solution. Yeah. That is just simply not the answer. And expecting him to come Muzzin to be out all year, come back, be up to game speed, like you said, that's just recipe for disaster. So hopefully we can see a move come soon. But
I think they made one move. I think it's probably even better than 50% they make another one.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a good summry.
That's a great summary. So
we're getting into the goaltending.
Anything else?
Now.
Yeah. You want to move on to the goalies?
Oh boy.
It's it's been a ride. We got a couple good games out of Jack Campbell. He was rolling. Then we go into St. Louis. I mean, tough. Like a few of those goals obviously are nowhere near his fault, but it was a personal shot in the groin to me when I saw Klim Kostin go in 1-on-1 versus Jack Campbell, and I've been praising Jack Campbell's 1v1 save percentage kind of thing, and Kostin buried it on him.
That's honestly, Joe, it sounds simple, but everything we've been preaching, like, again, I'm not just trying to pump our tires here. It all goes into the pie, into this nice piece of blueberry pie.
Yep.
It's all that we got pieces. Defending the front of the net to start the year has gone worse. Okay, now our save percentage is going down a bit. You're a goalie. As you start fighting the puck a bit, as your save percentage is going from 930 to 928 to 927 to 926, it's like, man, is he going to stop every outside shot now? And unfortunately, we're getting to the point now. It's hard to read goalies. Again, we've talked about it. Jack Campbell's never started more than 30 games prior to this year. It's a mental warfare to start 55, 60 games for a goalie. It's hard to do. We've seen it. Bobrovsky goes from a Vezina Trophy winner. They give him $10 million, and suddenly they want him in the minors, right? It's tough to be a consistent goalie year to year. It's tough to expect 930 save percentage all year. I agree. Mm-hmm. But there's no doubt in my mind Jack Campbell's fighting it a bit right now. I can see it in his eyes. After the second goal, wrote in our little group
terrible.
Chat, I said the mentals right now for Campbell are just not, I could just tell. They're just not there.
No.
And 2 goals on 2 shots in the first 8 minutes of the third period, like those are deflating goals. Luckily we came back, but again, Patrick Laine has one of the best shots in the world, but you said it before the podcast. Teams play to give up that shot in overtime. If you give up a shot at the top of the circle in overtime, you're happy because you could probably either he'll miss and maybe you can swing it back around the net, get an on-man rush the other way, or the goalie can just hold it and play the puck to your defenseman. He scored from the top of the circle in overtime. Teams don't even take that shot. We see teams take the puck back out of the zone from the top of the circle in overtime. So I hate bagging on the goalies, but Mrazek was atrocious against Montreal.
Yeah.
Atrocious.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. You paid him 3.5.
Funny because he made a couple really good saves, and then that Caulfield goal can't go.
That was terrible. I'm sorry. The way he slid across the net, you gotta.
That Hoffman goal was horrible too.
There was at least three goals in that game that should not have gone in the net on an NHL goalie.
I don't know if that's being
it was
funny on that goal, the third goal. Hoffman gets the puck. He's coming in. It's a bit of a defensive breakdown, and Liljegren's playing it, and he gives Hoffman a little bit of room, but he's instructing, hey, make sure you can see him point. He goes, hey, make sure that pass is taken care of, and he's got a good distance to Hoffman. Hoffman takes a shot from the circles. Hoffman's got a good shot. It was just a wrist shot, and it went through Mrazek. I was like, that's a really shitty, tough one to give up there. That's deflating.
Yeah, it's tough.
2-0, you can fight back, sure. 3-0 after a goal like that, it's like, oh my God, here we go. We're in for it tonight.
Like you said, you started off with it. It's when the Jack Campbell's automatic on the first shot to. Okay, he's letting in 1 or 2 a night on the first shot. And
they were showing his rebound control stats. According to Money Puck, he's very good on the rebound control, which we've seen a lot of as well. But a couple of those first shots, he's screened on that. It's like, okay, you have to find a way around the screen. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I just want to run through on some more numbers because I got some more numbers for the goalies too. So again, we're going to go with the last 16 games just because it's neat and tidy. So first and foremost, something that's not good is Jack Campbell save percentage is .868 in that 16 game stretch where he played 10 games. One of them he got pulled. So Peter Mrazek had 7 games because he came into relief for Jack Campbell. His save percentage is .883. That's simply not good enough. But again, the goalies, they won us a couple games earlier in the season. I think our team can do a little bit more to help them out. But at the same time, this is a bad stretch for them, and it's almost a bad stretch for the entire team.
Yeah.
Another number I want to look at is goals against average. We're giving up on average 3.5 goals a game over that stretch. So again, team level issues, not just goalies. I'm not trying to bring up these stats to specifically bag on the goalies, but it's a team level issue. And Jack Campbell simply, like we said, since January, he hasn't been what we saw earlier in the season. And I don't know if that's I don't know the mentality of being a goalie. I've never played goalie. How would that affect you being on the shelf for a month and a half, kind of not doing anything? I feel like that would affect you greatly. Has to. And I feel like that's part of the reason as to maybe why he's not doing so well. But there is one stat that I want to bring up that was glaring.
So
because
in terms of, I just wanted to get
sorry.
In terms of on the shelf, it really depends what kind of state you're in. It's so fluid in terms of depending on what's going on. If you're having a tough stretch, okay, yeah, that break really helps you out. So reset, whatever. Jack Campbell was rolling. He was on a hot streak there. And then you run into 2 games a week and then an all-star weekend. Yeah, some more breaks, and then it's like, oh, God. That's tough.
Yeah. And we were not
and
just...
now he's into every other game. So it's like maybe, okay, Jack is going to be our guy in the playoffs. Give him 3 in a row. And then try to fit Mrazek in there, here and there.
Well, yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, saying that he had a good start is kind of an understatement because not just Leafs fans, but almost everyone in the hockey community was throwing him out as a Vezina contender.
He's an all-star.
He was an all-star. Exactly, yeah. He was an all-star. He was having a fantastic season. But
and the other issue is, we talked about this a ton in the offseason. Are they going to go 1A, 1B, or are they going to go starter backup? You paid Mrazek 3.7 or whatever it was. I don't know the exact number. He's got to be better too. And these are also opportunities for Mrazek. I'm sorry. I don't think it's guaranteed 100% that Jack Campbell starts. You see Campbell's getting worse. If I'm Mrazek, like, you got a chance to get a bigger share of this net, and he's absolutely fallen on his face. It's really unfortunate. When you give a guy that kind of money to give me,
decent,
not quite Michael Hutchinson, but,
way better.
I know, but like average, he's giving you average league backup right now. He's got an 890 save percentage through 10. That's Michael Hutchinson.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I know he's been injured, but again, what you're paying him, he's our. Tavares has been bad too, but per dollar, he's been our worst player this year, other than Nick Ritchie, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I know it's harsh, but we've had a lot of players play well.
Yeah.
And again, it's not all his fault, but when you add the goaltending's gotten worse, we're giving up more chances in front. We're struggling to break the puck out. The second and third line aren't contributing anything offensively the last 16 games. So right now what you've got is you've got one line scoring. You've got a somehow defensive-minded center who's chipping in points. You got Engvall, the goal scorer. You got Riley Brody playing well, Sandin jumping in on the rush, and that's it. Those are your positives the last 16 games. And William Nylander can still shoot the puck. So, again, the goaltending needs to be better. And it's not, it's hard to say you need to be better on rebounds that end up in front and we don't clear the puck. Or you need to be better on Justin Holl turning the puck over and we have two cycle chances against immediately after that. But like you said, when the shots that are unscreened and right in your face start going in, that's an issue.
Yeah. In terms of the Leafs' actual goals against minus expected goals against, so that would be essentially like a minus in this situation would be good. You're letting in less goals than what you would actually expect the goalie to give up based on the number of chances based on the number of chances against. Since January 1st, the Leafs are second last in that metric.
Oh, jeez.
Last is New Jersey, who has been playing guys at the likes of Shved.
They've used 6 goalies, 50 games in.
And John Gillies, who they brought in off the streets, and the Leafs beat their brains in for 13 goals or whatever. This is at 5-on-5.
Them or Seattle, worst goaltending numbers this year, I believe.
Seattle's been a lot better than us since January 1st.
Yes, and I have a number that Evolving Wild tweeted out earlier in the night. And this is again going back to what we were talking about in Jack Campbell in the 16 games, right? So in his last 10 starts, which takes place over those 16 games, Jack Campbell has averaged a minus 0.28 goals saved above expected. So that's essentially a minus 10 point whatever 11 minus 11 goals saved above expected over those 10 starts. That is this season. There's only 2 goalies who have had a lower 10 game stretch than that. That is Grubauer, who is legitimately in that stat been the worst goalie in the league by a country mile, and Caden Primo, who hasn't even played consecutive games, just been here or there, and he's just not a strong goaltender. So that is,
he's young,
struggling.
But
you get outplayed back-to-back nights by Samuel Montembeault, and I don't even want to mess this guy's name up. JP Berube, JF Berube,
JF, yes.
When you're giving your goalies, your backup's making 3.5, and you're looking to give Campbell, we were talking $6 million. Like, that's serious money.
6 by 6.
That can't happen, right? So, and again, we're just analyzing the last little stretch. But the goaltending hasn't been good enough.
Sam Montembeault, who I've probably have said in the past, he's one of the worst goalies in the league. I don't know. Montreal saw something in him clearly, and they were willing to go through the growing pains. So he's slowly getting better and better, I think. But he's still not someone that should be shutting you down.
No.
And then JF Berube, this guy hadn't played in the NHL since 2018. Should tell you a little bit about what your competition is there. And as you said, 5 goals for total over 2 games.
Yeah.
You can't help but laugh.
Yeah.
And who else? What other team but the Leafs? Huh?
It happens, though. Again, we got a ton of hockey left, and
yes.
I think we did a good job outlining the areas to improve.
Honestly, if the Leafs match up against Tampa Bay in the playoffs, Tampa Bay's best bet is to go out on the streets and get Curtis McElhinney to come back and play against them. And tell Curtis, don't play for a full month before you get here because the frickin' Toronto Maple Leafs, I guarantee, will bury the puck so hard into your chest, you'll be bruised for a month.
Oh, man.
Isn't that a GM strategy?
I just honestly
right there?
I love the Leafs. I pick them in every series. They always lose. I would if I was a betting man, they're not like Tampa Bay. I would pick Tampa Bay to beat the Leafs. That team is a juggernaut. They can play any style. Like really don't want to play them. If they have to, they have to. But yeah, so I think that's the moratorium on the Leafs the last 16 games.
What's the major thing? If you were to say if the Leafs change this, they beat Tampa, what's the major pressing issue for the Leafs?
Jack Campbell needs to at least match Andrei Vasilevsky play minimum because Vasilevsky, as I've said, is going to go down as one of the best goalies ever.
And he doesn't even he catches with his dominant hand.
So
when you think about that, you do not throw with your right hand and catch with your right hand if you are right-handed.
I didn't know that.
He is left-handed. He catches with his left hand. This is from Kevin Woodley, because when he was in Russia, his dad was a pro goalie too. He didn't have access to a right-catching glove. He
just learned, yeah.
He just learned.
Wow.
You know how they say, like, you build a guy in the lab? That's him. He's literally built in a lab. 6'3", 225, flexible, long arms, long legs.
There's no way he's 6'3".
He is.
He looks like he has
extremely long limbs.
6'4",
you could see his legs and his arms are massive.
They bend.
There's one stat that Jason just asked me to look up, and I'm glad he did because this is a big one that I think the forwards. Remember the start of the year, first 7 or 8 games? What did we say the forwards were doing too much of?
Cheating up ice, right?
No.
Sorry.
Too much of?
In terms of generating offense, like
at the beginning of the year.
Is almost like a systems change. It felt like Sheldon Keefe was emphasizing doing something more than what they used to.
Dump and chase.
Dump and chase. So Jason asked me to look up the rush chances for the Leafs full season versus the last 16 game sample we've been talking about. Full season, they're 9th in rush chances, which makes sense. They're usually in the top.
Against, right?
Oh, you wanted against?
Yeah.
I did 4, and it's interesting.
Okay, sorry.
So this is rush chances 4. We know they've been dumping the puck in a lot, but we also know their big boys like to rush the puck in and score. I think this is a great example of probably the second line making a difference. Full season, 9th, right? Mm-hmm. Last 16 games, 20th in the league in rush chances 4 per game, behind the Ottawa Senators.
Damn it.
You got us there, Dave.
Yep. That was the other thing. In that stat I mentioned earlier, actual goals minus expected, Ottawa is 3rd behind Colorado and the New York Rangers.
That's definitely a problem. Like, we got to be creating more off the rush.
Maybe that's an identifier.
Or
start betting Ottawa.
Well, I think our second line specifically, right? Like, but we've talked about it. Tavares' foot speed is like a tick slower right now, and it's changing things. The exits, the entries, they're different. So
that's true.
Interesting.
That's a good stat. Damn it.
Yeah, I like that. And we're not saying these things because the sky is falling. We're not saying to go scorched earth. I think we did a great job here of just identifying the areas that, exactly like you said, we need to improve on if we want to go deep into the playoffs. This right now is not good enough, and that's okay to say because I don't think this is the Toronto Maple Leafs. I really don't. I think they're a lot better than this. They've shown earlier in the season that they are a lot better than this. And I think they need to take a good look in the mirror. And if they want to be a team that goes on and has success in the playoffs, they have to be better. And I think if they are able to get better in these areas, along with hopefully some trades at the deadline that improve this team, I think it's going to be a step in the right direction.
Another stat to throw at you.
Yes.
So I got D-zone denial rates. Full season, Leafs are 10th in the league. It's pretty good. Last 16 games, 23rd in the league behind the Chicago Blackhawks.
So how many games?
The exact sample we've been talking about.
The last 16 games, they're 23rd in the league at denials against.
Here's the thing. I'm telling you, these are the things you got to look at to improve. Protect the front, protect the line, generate more off the rush, stop the shot when you can see it. Those are like the big things.
I think that's a great way of summarizing.
And specifically off the rush, it's the second line. Because I actually think our third line dump it in almost every time because they are relentless forecheckers.
Yes.
Mikheyev and Kosh are on that puck right away. It's not a big hit, but they're so good with their stick. Mikheyev doesn't stop skating. Kosh doesn't stop skating at all, even if he's about to fall into someone. So, yeah. I think those are good things to look for.
There's going to be a situation where Andre Kosh is just like a little wily coyote, just goes through the boards.
And he'll still keep going. He'll keep going through the tunnel. And there doesn't have to be ice underneath him.
He's going to just break the glass, but not like a Lucic hit. He just goes right into the glass. But, all right, now we've talked about the issues. Are there any players that are solved for these issues? So we got David Pagnotta. I don't know if I messed up his name.
Pagnotta.
Paisano.
Yeah.
He likes to cast a wide net, I will say. He's had scoops. He was the first one to break Tavares to the Leafs, by the way.
Yeah.
So he said, let's go one by one for these players, okay? Ricard Raquel for the Leafs.
Ooh.
Ricard
Interesting.
Raquel.
I wonder how much that would cost.
He makes 3.9-ish, 3.8. He makes 3.7, blah, 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 blah number. But yeah, so let's just say around 3.8. Yeah, so that's what his salary is looking like right now. And if I think, if I would want to make more than one deal. So again, we'd have to have a guy kind of moving out if we take him in, because right now at the deadline, a little bit of tidy work that Earl Schwartz has done on Twitter, he's kind of given us two scenarios for what our cap space will look like at the trade deadline. And so if we have currently 12 forwards and 8D on our books, and if that stays the same till the trade deadline, we'll have about $1.1 million in cap space. This second scenario, since the Muzzin injury, is a little more unlikely, especially if he's out until the trade deadline. But essentially, the Leafs could yo-yo both Sandin and Lybushkin between the AHL and the NHL, and by having one of them down, they would be able to accrue an extra $1.5 million in cap space, bringing their total to $2.6 million. I'd say it's more likely that we'll be at $1.1 million.
Or Muzzin will be on...
Or Muzzin will be on LTIR. So that's another scenario that kind of cooked into the mix. So, sorry, let's go back to Ricard Raquel.
Yes.
But just wanted to give that primer because there's everyone likes to talk about our cap situation. Like, it's not going to be hard for us to move up money. Now we got rid of our biggest problem. Dermott and Hall, I think, are the two most likely to get moved if we were to get a player back. And I think both those guys combined make about around 3.5. So
yeah,
let's say one or two. If both of them get moved out, which is likely, I don't know what you guys would put that at. I definitely one of them gets moved out. That brings you to around $3.5 million, which is.
And also the situation where I think this is not impossible, where Muzzin goes on LTIR, opens up a lot of doors for
100%.
When you start to talk about retaining, you could get like two $5 million players and retain.
Yeah.
Right, a 7 and a 3. So, Ricard Raquel.
I mean, the past few years, the numbers have not been very good. Or actually, the past two, it looks like. Last year and this year, the numbers have not looked that good. But when you look beyond that, like 42 and 65, 43 and 69, 69 and 77, a 34 goal a year in there, 33 goal in there. I haven't watched enough of Ricard Raquel to really give a full profile of him, but that would be interesting. I mean, he was rumored to be possibly moved last year. I'm not sure why Anaheim didn't do that. That they would have got a lot more value out of him, but it'd be a decent ad. I think it would be an upgrade.
Yeah. Is that the kind of, like, we just talked, like, throwing it back to, like, what we talked about earlier in the episode, is that the type of upgrade where you move out Kerfoot, you keep Kerfoot probably, right?
I think the three forwards we name here, if you could, I would keep Kerfoot with these guys.
Okay.
And even if that means he plays on the fourth line, honestly, like, if they want Simmons in there, it's like push comes to shove, Engvall can sit. Like, it's not. He's been good, but I would sit Simmons. But push comes to shove, like, I'd rather have Kerfoot than Engvall, obviously.
Okay, yeah, see that.
The thing with Raquel is he hasn't been scoring, but he still generates chances at a really good rate. He's not a power forward, but that's kind of, you got to think of that for style. Like, he's good off the cycle. He gets around the net. He can score goals, and I think could be a big help for the second line. He's not really a defensive player. Mm-hmm. None of these guys, other than one guy, I think brings some defensive utilization. But I think you may be buying low on Raquel here. That's why it's sneaky for me. Like, I don't know if it's going to cost a first-round pick for him.
It shouldn't.
So, I mean, you get that guy for a second, get him to retain some salary. You fit him in the Leafs, no problem.
Yeah. I wonder if the Anaheim Ducks would take on like almost like a prospect instead of a pick, just because.
But who would it?
You're right.
It'd be Nick Robertson. Yeah, that's the guy. If I'm Anaheim, I'm like, wow, 20 years old, almost ready for the NHL.
Yeah, no, never.
He's a second round pick, so he's not a first round pick.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go with the pick there then.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like Nick Robertson.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Rickard Raquel's game in that way. I think he'd be a really good fit on the second line.
Yeah. I agree there.
And compared to the other guys, when I'm looking at the comparison, he's head and shoulders above in scoring chances, cycle chances, forecheck chances, all of it, way above the other guys. So,
okay, all right,
including Kerfoot. I threw Kerfoot in here too to look at.
Oh, to compare. That's good. Let's hear the next name.
So that is Andrew Kopp from the Winnipeg Jets.
Ooh.
So that's one when I heard, I kind of went like, really? Andrew Kopp? Like, has he been that good? And it turns out, like, after looking into some of his like metrics, he's actually been very, very good this year. He has pretty decent offensive impacts.
And last year.
But decent offensive impacts, but his defensive impacts are really strong. He has really strong defensive impacts, and he is someone who would fit in well with this team because he's a great penalty killer. One thing that we love to do is kill penalties. So he plays a ton of minutes on the penalty kill, way more than the average PK1 would for a forward. And his impacts on the penalty kill are fantastic. So he seems like a very a positive player, like just a good overall player to bring into this team. And I think this is someone where if we do end up moving Kerfoot for a guy in Vancouver, and we can somehow get this guy as well, it could be almost to negate the loss of Alexander Kerfoot.
Yeah, I think, again, Kopp is probably giving you more defensively. He's probably, in terms of compared to Kerfoot, he's probably giving you more in terms of puck retrievals. You know Kerfoot's been good at it this year. Talking puck retrievals, dump-in recoveries. He's pretty good at those things. Kopp has almost become a jack of all trades for Winnipeg. Like he's played center in the past. He plays wing, plays on different lines, first line, second line, third line. So I like his multiple utility for the Leafs, especially if you keep Kerfoot, because then you say, okay, we could even have him like, wow, you put him on the third line, and even if it bumps Mikheyev or Kasha down, or you even, Andrew Kopp on your fourth line. I know it's given up a lot for that situation, but it can help at any line on the
as long as you utilize him.
Exactly. And then, again, you can throw him a couple shifts here and there, give him some shorthanded. Again, I'm not sure this is the guy that moves out Kerfoot, though. Okay. If it is, he's got to play on the second line, obviously.
Yeah.
So, again, he's played center in the past, right? Mm-hmm. Is he a guy that you'd be willing to say, okay, we know your defensive impacts are good. You're good at face-offs. Tavares plays wing and he plays center for you. Is that an option?
Well,
I don't know.
I brought up.
That could be interesting. That could be very
on the second line.
Yeah. So
all right.
I listen.
My one thing about the second line though is I know that maybe he has good defensive impacts, but I don't know if I'm thinking about this incorrectly, but I think that I would prefer. I know that this is very pie in the sky, but I would prefer if we do get a guy for that second line, we do upgrade. I want just F it offense. You know. Just go all in, like, because I don't know. I don't know what the answer. Like, I don't know how, if one player alone can make up for the deficiencies that both Nylander and John Tavares are starting to have in their own zone.
The other thing with Kopp is I think Winnipeg really likes him. I think A, they're going to try to re-sign him. B, it's going to be like a pretty massive price tag. So
yeah, he's been pretty good for them. They use him a lot.
And
20 minutes a game.
He's a UFA. He's only 27 years old, entering his first year.
Maybe they use him so much. Does he play on the same line as the coach's son?
No, they've started using him less, though, by the way. That's funny. They started using Ehlers instead.
He got exposed.
Third man.
Before we get off that, the Winnipeg Jets are 7 points out of a playoff spot. Is there anything better than beating the Leafs, boy?
Hey, if you miss the playoffs,
making the playoffs. How about that, Mark?
But they beat the Leafs. Who cares?
Yeah.
And now there's Scheifele trade rumors. Oh, all right. What's better than beating the Leafs? Getting traded out of Winnipeg. Max Domi is name number 3. Jason's been telling this name for a while.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting one. I have no idea what to make of it.
So the one thing with Max Domi compared to the other 2 players is that he does make $5.3 million, where the others were about $3.5 million. And another thing on top of that, I know some people will just say simple retain. So it's small, but his base salary this year is greater than his AAV. Kind of similar to the Richie situation, if you were understanding that. So basically, his base salary in his first year was $4.6 million, and his base salary in his second year, which is this year, is $6 million. So that is $10.6 million, which averages out to over 2 years to 5.3, and that is his AAV, right? Mm-hmm. So when you retain salary, even though you're retaining on your cap hit, let's say it's $2.5 million, even though you're retaining that percentage, you're going to actually be spending more real dollars on Max Domi's actual salary because he's making 6. So if you were to retain 50%, it would be.
But the only thing, it's not that much for this.
I know. I'm just saying.
So you're saying that it might be a situation where Columbus doesn't want
to retain,
which would make him a player that maybe is out of our range.
Yes.
And would be more difficult overall.
So let's talk. What about the player simply in Max Domi?
I haven't watched a whole ton of them since he went to Columbus.
So Max Domi's a high skill player. Max Domi's been a high skill player his whole life.
Put up 72 1 year with Montreal.
Max Domi can score points. He's a leaky faucet defensively this year. Mm-hmm. Numbers aren't good. Microstats, analytics, not good. So
his playing time has gone down.
And even against these other guys, even versus Kerfoot, he's last in a lot of things, scoring chances. The only thing he's better than Kerfoot I'm looking at right here is rush chances.
Yeah.
Kerfoot's better on the cycle. Kerfoot's better forecheck chances on net. Like, the only thing about Domi, he's got a little bite to him, right? So you're hoping that comes through in the playoffs.
A little bit like Bunting with the bite aspect.
And you know, maybe he can transition a puck. Like, maybe that'll help the second line.
Domi in Toronto too.
It's hard not to like that. I don't think he'll cost much either. I think you're looking at a 2-3 and maybe a 3 plus a mid prospect. Even maybe a player swap. I think Jason wasn't that far off when he said Kerfoot for Domi. We all rolled our eyes. But if you're Columbus right now, it's like they're another team that probably wants as many guys ready to go as possible. Mm-hmm. So is that a Justin Hall
destination?
Is it?
I'd have to look at their D. I don't know. One thing to note with Domi, he has his shooting percentage this year is a career high. And he has 9 goals in 39 games.
What is it over his career average?
His career average,
I know he's been fluctuating.
Is 10.3, and he's at 14.5.
Okay. And I don't know if he's the right fit. It would be a luxury. I would not ship out Kerfoot and replace it with Max Domi. I know we said there's no way Columbus would give us Max Domi for Kerfoot. Kerfoot's been a better player this year.
He has.
For 100%.
By a lot.
So,
and when I said that, Kerfoot blew me out of the water. After I said that, he's like, all right, coming for you. But.
So of those 3 guys, I would say in order for me, I'd have Raquel in like a tier 1. Mm-hmm. I'd have like Kopp in like a tier 2, and then Domi like a tier 4 or 5 in terms of want, need.
So those were all the guys that Pagnotta
Those were the forwards he mentioned. Elliot Friedman mentioned JT Miller. I think JT Miller is a fringe top 50 player in the NHL. He's really good.
Really good offense.
Really, really good.
And the most important thing about JT Miller is that he is like all the players we just listed. Unlike all the players you just listed, he's not a rental. He's signed for 1 more year after this year.
Fantastic.
5.25.
Yeah, which is a very solid price.
Very good number. The big thing is Vancouver. It doesn't look like they have a difficult decision coming up. They either are looking to move JT Miller, who has 5.25 for next year, or it's Brock Besser, who is upcoming. He's an upcoming restricted free agent. However, his qualifying offer is at like 7.4.
So they'd be smart to move Besser, but every other team in the league would be smart to know that fact, and they know
because
that.
Brock Besser can pretty much just take the qualifying offer at 7.4 and then go to free agency.
Yeah,
and not only that, like, do you even want Brock Besser at 7.4 even for like a year?
He's up and down. Because his big thing is he has a very, very good shot.
That's the maybe where the list ends on his elite traits, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's valuable, but we see that could fluctuate in a playoff. We've seen Patrick Laine have goal streaks, and we've seen him not be able to score. Like when it's shot only.
He didn't. I mean, I'll pull up the numbers right now, but he didn't score at all last year, all of last year. And then at the beginning of this year, he was struggling again. But guess what? He had 2 tonight, and I believe he's over a goal a game in his past 11 games or 10 games.
Crazy. But the other thing about Besser is, like, if you trade for him, what team is going to be able to give him a low ball offer when your agent has so much leverage? Why would I'll just take my 7.5 and walk.
Yeah.
Like, that's way better than your $5 million, $6 million offer.
Calgary's coming up with that with Tkachuk. I don't know what they're going to do there.
Pay him, man. He's such a good player.
Yeah. I know.
Like, he's worth $9 million, $10
then
million.
You have Gaudreau that's a UFA too.
He walks.
That would make sense. But
that's
unfortunate.
That's the issue with bridging your players.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's coming to play now. Hey, it's nice that Matt Tkachuk took the bridge, but if you had him locked in at maybe 7.5, what he was worth at the time, for 8 years, you probably fit Gaudreau. Now he's $10 million. It's not crazy.
Not at all.
Not crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, JT Miller for the Leafs. I mean, Friedman mentioned it, so it's not crazy.
He said, yeah. And what was it? I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, I would be going after, or I would look to.
Mm-hmm.
If you have $5 million on LTIR or whatever Muzzin is,
yeah,
it fits right in. You don't need them to retain.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. And then deal with the $5 million that he makes next year. Next year, you could ship out any guy. Like, that guy is an absolute game-breaking player.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the same level as William Nylander. That's how good this player is. I think Nylander this year has been a bit better, but historically, JT Miller has been. He's a top-line winger in the NHL. He really is. Like,
so quickly to what you just said, Jake Muzzin makes $5.625 million, and JT Miller makes $5.25. So the difference there is $400K, and the Leafs have already accrued that much cap space. So they can actually go out and get him right now, and he'd be able to fit under the cap.
And JT Miller's not good defensively, but he's played center. He's taken draws. Like, maybe
we could teach him.
What if we? I'm going to
probably not.
What if you split it to 3 lines with JT Miller?
Like, put JT Miller on the third line, or put?
Why not? The possibilities become endless, right?
Yes.
I've got a funny tweet here. Mostly Leafies tweeted, "I'm thinking of something," and they posted. It was Jake Muzzin and his cap hit at 5.625. And then right next to it, the next picture is Tomas Hertl, whose cap hit is 5.625. And then the first comment is Hertl hole second pair.
I like that. Hertl's interesting. We'll see. That'll be...
I think it'll come right down to the wire.
Yeah, because I think Hertl wants San Jose to Jerry Maguire, show me the money. And I don't know if San Jose is going to be able to show him the money that he wants. For 8 years, which he wants. So we'll see. But the last name I want to get to before we end the podcast, we've talked about it a lot. The last name David Pagnotta said, Mark Giordano. And now, we're talking left D, right D. I think at this point, it's just get a guy and figure it out. Mm-hmm. And that guy, would I be excited if that guy was
He will figure it out. He's
just
right way
D.
too competitive.
He'd play right D. He would. I know he would.
Do whatever.
And right now, maybe we need a lefty.
Yeah, we need a lot.
So,
according to the Leafs' defensive performance.
So, again, I'm going to go run through his cap situation. He makes $6.75 million. I don't think that Seattle is going to take an issue to retaining him at all because they are like pretty far under the cap.
Unless they pull like their expansion draft Galaxy brain, they just need to. They need to approach this free agency properly.
Yeah. So why wouldn't they retain though? It makes no sense.
That would be stupid not to. But
absolutely.
I don't know.
They're not even spending to the cap this year.
I think they're
making bank on those. They've sold out their season tickets in they make money.
Yeah,
they're making money.
Mm-hmm. And so another thing that's interesting is that Giordano has a modified no trade clause, and that's for 19 teams that he can be traded to. So I guess what is it?
I don't think Toronto is off.
Toronto's definitely on the list.
He would accept a trade to Toronto.
Yes,
100%.
yes.
So there's some leaky source there, but I would say he would accept a trade to Toronto.
There's some option for where he gets to go. I read that wrong. I thought there was 19 teams that he can't be traded to. But anyway, sorry.
I think he came in. He became their captain. He didn't say, I don't want to play here. Flip me to another team. He did everything right. He came to the press conference. He's played well for them this year. I think, knowing Ron Francis, he's a stand-up hockey guy, I have no doubt that they'll work with Giordano to get him. If they are going to trade him to a spot he wants to go. And I think Toronto might be a spot he wants to go.
Yeah. He's from Toronto, by the way, if you don't.
He's
Toronto,
from...
Or birthplace.
Was he born in Woodbridge kind of area? I don't know, but he lives in Oakville in the off season. Best friends with a certain someone on our defense.
Maybe a former partner of a certain someone on our defense. And then maybe Piz can live out his Riley Lybushkin or Riley versus with a defensive right D thought from last week.
Oh, yeah, where I said split them up. Yeah.
And then you got Muzzin Sandin on your third pair.
Which would be it. Interesting. I like that.
Not bad.
If Muzzin goes on LTIR, it sounds crazy, these things we're saying, but even Elliot Friedman said, buckle up. Like, we'll see.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be like almost advantageous to us.
What?
If Muzzin goes on
Yes,
LTIR.
correct. It's terrible to say, but
I know. Hopefully he's okay.
yes.
That's first and
That's
foremost.
the most important thing.
But, wow. Get to cap friendly.
We shall see what happens. I think that wraps up for today, though. I think, honestly, this is maybe my favorite podcast we've done so far.
Yeah.
And it comes off 3 Leaf losses, but I think people will love this. I think this was a systematic, thoughtful, and thorough breakdown of what's going on with the Toronto Maple Leafs. What's happening, where they're going wrong, and how you can fix it. And I do think a lot of fans, even though they've lost 5 playoff seasons in a row, even though they lost 3 in a row, even though the sky is falling, Sid Sixero, Steve Dangle, there is smart hockey fans in this market, and they want to know what's actually going on. And I hope we did a good job of that.
Yeah. Yep.
Love it. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
I just want to throw in quickly, just guys, if you can just follow us on Twitter, follow us on YouTube. We're starting to post these podcasts on YouTube now, so if that's your preferred avenue to digest this kind of content, give us this little subscription on YouTube. It really helps us out. Leave us a review where you can. Leave us a comment where you can. All this stuff really, really helps us out. We love this team, and we love talking about this team. So whatever you guys can do to help us out would be much appreciated. Thank you guys for listening.
Go Leafs, go.
The Rink Rat Report podcast is brought to you by BetStamp, the ultimate sports betting companion app. Track, follow, and analyze your bets across multiple sportsbooks. And while you're there, check out the world's first verified buy and sell marketplace for sports betting picks. Download the app today. The Rink Rat Report podcast is also brought to you by Season 2 of The Law Garage. Host Marco Shara, a Toronto criminal defense lawyer, interviews various criminal lawyers about the practice of criminal defense, gets them to share their war stories, and helpful tips for up-and-coming lawyers interested in the area of law. Out now on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. Step into the garage, listen to the experts, and get a tune-up.